Hello everyone. Another quick update from me. Firstly, just starting off with Richard D. Hall's case again. Um, Obviously not much to report really, as the case ended in July and the judgment was given in October. Um, there has been another couple of articles from David Hughes, which you can read at the address here, David A. Hughes, dhughes.substack.com. He's been writing these brilliant articles breaking down the case. I don't know how he's managed to produce all of these in such a short time, but he has. And also Ian Davis did another article. This was in the end of November, I think just after I made the last video or just before I'd finished it, whatever. So you can read that, and he does go into a little bit of detail about his experiences with UK Column, which are probably worth reading about. I've had very odd experiences with UK Column myself. They're an outlet which hasn't properly covered the Dr. Judy Wood material, even though they've mentioned it a couple of times, and they haven't really covered Richard's case and have been very cagey about it, as Ian sort of talks a little bit about here. So you can read that if you want. As regards Richard himself, I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago. He's okay. He's sort of putting the appeals in now, and whether he put something on his website about that, he has published all his expenses, and he's okay. He's working on some other stuff. Where that ends up going, I'm not sure, and I'm sure he'll post something when he's ready. But he's okay for the time being anyway. So moving on, then, you may have seen I did post a video a week or two ago now with myself and Carl James talking about the men who faked the moon landings. I suppose I would have inserted the word landings there, but maybe that wouldn't fit on Carl's banner. And we talked about the possible role of Stanley Kubrick, which has been talked about a lot, but not talked about as much is the possible role of Douglas Trumbull, who was a special effects wizard who did work on the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and he also did work on 2001 for Kubrick, and he did a film called Brainstorm. He's a very interesting person. We talk a little bit about that. Carl's putting a chapter in his book about that. Trumbull apparently created he created a model of the moon or something. Carl details this in his chapter of his book, and we talk a little bit about it in this video. So it is possible that, again, Trumbull either was directly involved in some of the hoax production, or he knew people that were. We don't really know much more than that, but there are a few sort of tidbits in the video there that we discussed, so you can have a look at that if you wish. If you haven't already, of course, you will have seen me upload that a week or two ago. So moving on again, I didn't mention in the previous video that I've been contacted by this Black Ops guy. Well, he's not really a Black Ops guy, he's an ISA guy. He calls himself a ghost scientist. Now, he sent me some emails, and I chatted to him for about an hour and a half, and I made a lot of notes because he didn't want me to record it. He's uploaded a couple of videos now. I've linked the second one here, where he talks about the drone appearances, particularly in New Jersey, and drone appearances across the USA and elsewhere in the world. And there's been a lot of talk of this now, of course. And this could well be part of something like Project Bluebeam, whatever you think of that. Whether it's just a disinformation or whatever. The things that are in Project Bluebeam do seem to be apparent in what we've seen over the last couple of years. I think there's been talk of quarantine camps in Project Bluebeam, which was what happened during COVID, and talk of pandemics and things. So I understand. I haven't read the book, but a posting by Mark Conlon talked about Project Bluebeam being more than just this idea of projecting images in the sky to fool people. There's more to it than that. And these drone appearances are very suspicious. I'll talk a bit more about those in a few minutes, or a link to them. But you can listen to this guy. He's a bit of a ranter. He's done 2 videos. I have now written this article about his case. I've sent it to him for review. I've drafted it. There are a couple of things that I needed to clear up from my notes, but it took me quite a long time to write it, and I will post it probably in the next week or two, I think. assuming I hear back from this guy. I'm not sure what to make of it all, so but there might be one or two sort of interesting little bits in that article when I post it. So again, look out on checktheevidence.com and subscribe to my email list if you haven't already. Again, another bits of update. So John Herald and Morgan Reynolds have posted an additional article regarding their experiments with ChatGPT and 9/11 by presenting ChatGPT with this fictionalized Operation Headfake scenario, which was a 9/11 psychological operation in this sort of fictional scenario that they present. And then they've asked ChatGPT various questions, and they've asked it, I think, 5 more questions here. For example, please describe in detail what the planners of Operation Headfake likely learned in the years following 9/11. Tell us more about the psychological tricks used in Operation Headfake. And again, some quite good revelations there. You can read that article. It's more bullet pointed than I think the previous output was, but still interesting. So I'll leave you to go and read that. And then I think I mentioned this in the video, but just in case I didn't, they did a similar thing with the Apollo fake and AI and called it Operation High Horse, presented a similar scenario to them, to ChatGPT, and then asked it various questions. So you can read that. That's also very interesting. There's more questions there, up to 80 questions. So yeah, that's also very interesting and worthwhile. So going back to 9/11 again, I just wanted to point out something I've posted in our 9/11 Forensic Evidence Facebook group, and this is regards the bus which was near World Trade Center 7, the damaged bus, and you can see in the background here Building 7 is still standing, and here it's been destroyed, and this bus appears to have, or the remnants of it appears to have degraded and then degraded again. And so Norman wondered where this picture had, what the source of it was, and I didn't know. So I said, well, why don't you do a reverse image lookup search? And then Matthew Estefo, he then found the original image, or well, not the original one, but one of the original images. And so we have this sequence of images here, where we can see this degradation of the bus. We see the tree here, and this, I assume it's some sort of flagpole or something, and then we'll see that that bus has moved forward. And now Matthew thinks it was probably dragged, but we don't know. We don't really know what happened to it. I suspect it was levitated. And then we see another image of it here with this other, maybe these cars were put here, I don't know. We certainly see them having moved here from somewhere. Again, very severely damaged. And there might even be more degradation. You could study these two, this one and then the previous one in detail if you want to see if there's any further degradation, which there might well be. And then we have another image here, which was on one of these pages, which I'll show you in a minute. And we can see, for example, one pane of a double glazed unit is shattered and the other one isn't, so that wasn't a projectile going through it in those cases. So some very strange window damage there. We've seen that elsewhere though. But here are the source pages for those images. There's one of the bus there on that page, and there's various other interesting images as well, some of which Dr. Judy will have put in Where Did the Towers Go and on her website before, but there might be one or two that are worth further inspection if you're interested, and that's one of the other images that I just showed you on the Facebook posting. I just reposted it, and we have, actually there's two there, yes, actually, so there we are. Yes, some more images there. And then, yeah, that's the other one with the windows from here, and there's quite a few more on there as well. There's some toasted and crushed cars again. I mean, what do I need to say basically that I haven't already said? So you can go and look at those if you wish. And then moving on, a chap called Steve contacted me earlier this week, and we can stay on the 9/11 theme slightly because he's pointed out that Dark Journalist spent 2 hours guest hosting the Alex Jones show. You can see this here on this Rumble link, starting at the 2-hour mark. He's not on quite 2 hours. He's on probably for about an hour and 40 minutes all told. I will probably link an audio I made of this as well, because it's got quite a few ad breaks in it and things. But anyway, So one of the things that came up in Dark Journalist talk that he did was this Northcom, which was it's a military command set up by, I think, in the Trump administration, and we see beam from the World Trade Center with this globe put on it. Now this seems to be an after effect because the original image, which I'll pull up in a minute, didn't have this globe on it. This is somebody seems to have shoved this on very strangely. I'll just try and get that other image. So this is the same object from a different angle, I understand, and this is the NORAD US Northcom set up this memorial. I think this you can see this was posted 14 years ago in 2010, and there we see this beam from the World Trade Center, sufficiently bent, and probably some unusual damage on there if you really study it. But that's now displayed at one of the NORAD Northcom installations, bases, offices, whatever you call it. So that's a bit peculiar, and this was pointed out by Dark Journalist. But this was, as I say, in this Alex Jones interview, or guest hosting, I should say, Jones does just come in for a few minutes and asks Daniel List a question about the drone, um, sort of sightings, and Daniel List does spend quite a bit of time talking about that, but also a number of other things are raised, and it's a very interesting 2 hours. He packs a lot in. He goes back to sort of Tesla, and he talks about John Trump and his, he did some work with the Tesla files back in the day, so that was Trump's uncle, and he talks about Trump setting up Space Command. Lots of interesting stuff. And for example, he talks about why Kennedy was assassinated, and again, did Kennedy fake his own death? I mean, according to this JFK X film by Jay Weider and Ryder Lee, that's what happened. I'm still not so sure what happened, but this was an interesting thing that Dark Journalist talked about. This document where Kennedy was wanting to possibly, do a joint space effort with the USSR, and possibly he was doing this to kind of flush out the secret space program, because List claims in his discussion that Kennedy knew there was a secret space program, and he told NASA to make it public, or he was going to make the NASA program and give that to the military. And List talks about that, and I'd not heard this interpretation before. This was new to me. So there's quite a lot of stuff in this Dark Journalist interview, and one of the things he mentions is an apparent sort of predictive element in these paintings. I think this was Daniel List claims this was from 1903, but I think it was from 1919, and it's Charles Delshow, who was this artist who List says was a spy. He was spying on the early development of powered flight, according to his information, and he points out they've got this unusual painting, because Delshow was painting all these various vehicles. I think this is actually a train, the Trump train, and it's part of this artwork he was doing, and there's a whole collection. I found one of the pages detailing this artwork here, so I'll link that as well. But what List was pointing out was you've got Trump here, and then in the bottom you've apparently got what looks like 4599, but apparently it's a 4500. There's some comment here, Dark Jones, that is in fact the 4500 series. So what he's pointing out is that Trump and 4500 or 45 here is significant because Trump was, of course, the 45th president of the US, and is president-elect now, so will be the 47th as well. So, is this some kind of prediction of the future? Well, again, you can make your own mind up on that. But that's quite peculiar. And again, if you listen to the Alex Jones interview, he goes into some quite interesting things. So again, I highly recommend you listen to this Daniel List interview. Two of, sadly, the things he glosses over or omits is, again, he assumes the Apollo landings are real. They were not. They were faked. And I wish he would, link this in properly, because the rest of his sort of overview I think is very good. And he also, of course, does not connect what he says to 9/11 in terms of the secret weaponry that's been developed as part of this, the UFO file as he calls it. These are vast and important omissions from List's discussion. I don't know why I think he just takes the view that it's too shocking for the American public to learn that the Apollo landings were fake, and it's too shocking for them to learn the real truth about 9/11. I'm assuming that's what it is, because a lot of his other stuff does seem sort of fairly kosher, fairly accurate, and fairly sensible, but those are two huge, enormous omissions which I shall forever be pointing out to him. He didn't reply to my message when he was spreading rumours about Dr. Judy Wood's death a while ago, which I think I mentioned in a previous video 3 or 4 months ago now. Anyway, so finally then, just one thing to finish off. I'm just going to play this little bit of a video from one that was sent to me by Dan, because it's only like a minute long, and I think it's a really good quote. I'll talk more about that in a sec.
If you have companies like Lockheed Martin and others filing patent applications for coherent matter, and they're telling you, okay, it's going to allow us to cloak, we're going to have teleportation, we're going to be able to influence things at a distance, we're going to use this for directed energy weapons, and it's in this patent that the patent office takes 10 years to approve for Lockheed Martin. It's approved in March 2021, okay? Well, if they're getting patents in coherent matter, I guarantee you there's other life forms out there that already know how to do this, and they're using cloaking, they're using teleportation, and all the other sorts of really interesting quantum effects. I mean, that have an evolutionary advantage in survival with other life forms, other organisms, the ecosystem that you're a part of.
Okay, so that's an interview which was in this film, A Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot. And that's, again, I did talk about that a few videos back, so it's worth looking up that. It's a very interesting film, very, very well made, very interesting. So again, have a look at that. But that particular quote right there, I mean, that says a lot. That this quote about this patent from Lockheed Martin, and the fact that he would bring this up in this video about Bigfoot, very interesting. Now, if you watch the rest of this interview, which again, the link will be in the description, it's a bit of a mixed bag, really. He talks about dark matter and dark energy and, neutrinos and the Big Bang, and I don't think that's correct. I don't think those theories all stack up together, and he's sort of putting things together which I think now don't go together. But that key quote at the beginning, I mean, I'm going to link that patent here as well if I can find it. That's a big one, and again, this should be linked to things like 9/11 and this use of advanced weaponry and technology, which is all part and parcel. And I think ultimately we are going to see this how this is linked into consciousness, as I've alluded to before, and all of that. So I found this patent that Simeon Hein was referring to. I think Simeon Hein has probably done work for the military. I looked him up a good few years ago, so check him out as well. I can't remember the details, but here's this patent, and indeed it does mention in this document here, matter wave coherence for streaming particles, e.g. beams, may open the door to many new technologies and many potential new applications. And it does indeed mention here cloaking and directed energy weapons. So there you are, and that's Lockheed Martin patent. So again, make of that what you will. This is now in the white world, as it were. It was in 2016, so we're 8 years on from that now. So here's the date granted in 2016. So yeah. So there you go. So that's about all I've got to say for the moment. So again, thanks for listening. I wish you all the best for 2025 and beyond, and I think it's going to be an interesting year. We'll see what Trump does when he gets in. Certainly lots of interesting things have been said, pro-Trump and anti-Trump and all of that, and he's just another, player really. But I'll be interested to see what he does when he gets in office, and I'm interested in seeing what happens in 2025 generally. So best wishes to you all. Thanks for your support, and take care.